Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
On October 20, 2011, Muammar Gaddafi died. He was hiding in a drainage pipe in Sirte, his hometown. Rebel fighters found him. Phone videos showed him being pulled from the pipe, hurt, and then killed. It was a very bad end for a leader who ruled Libya for 42 years. Before this, he was a strong and proud leader. He called himself the King of Kings of Africa. He promised his people freedom. But just months earlier, leaders from Western countries met him. British Prime Minister Tony Blair met him in his desert tent. Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi shook his hand. These countries wanted Libya's oil and help to stop migrants. This was strange because Gaddafi was also known for supporting terrorist groups. He was a friend to some and an enemy to others. He went from being a revolutionary hero to a global enemy, then a welcomed guest, and finally a hunted man. Who was the real Colonel Gaddafi? Was he a good leader who built big projects like the Great Man-Made River? This project brought water to dry lands. Or was he a cruel dictator whose guards killed many prisoners in places like Abu Salam prison? He gave weapons to groups like the IRA. He was all of these things at the same time. His 42 years of rule were full of contradictions. He was a man of paradox. This book will look at his complex story. Was he a hero or was he a villain? 2. A young man in the desert. Muammar Gaddafi was born around 1942. His Bedouin family lived in a tent in the Libyan desert near Sirte. They often moved, herding goats and camels for a poor living. His parents, Mohammed Abdul Salam and Aisha bint Nuran, had no written records for his birth date. Despite their hard life, Gaddafi's father sent him to school. He first learned from an Islamic teacher, then went to elementary school in Sirte. He walked 20 miles weekly to see his family and slept in a mosque during school. This was a great sacrifice for his family. At school, Gaddafi faced bullying. City students made fun of him for being a desert boy. This unfair treatment made him angry. It strengthened his desire to change society. Later, in Saba for secondary school, Egyptian teachers showed him Arab world events. He read newspapers and listened to radio from Cairo. He discovered Gamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt's leader, who became his hero. Nasser's ideas about Arab unity and freedom from Western control shaped Gaddafi's thinking. He read Nasser's book on revolution. Libya under King Idris seemed weak. Oil found in 1959 mostly helped the king and foreign companies, not ordinary Libyans. In 1963, Gaddafi joined the Royal Military Academy in Benghazi. He believed military power was key for revolution. There, he met like-minded officers, including Abdul Salam Jalloud, a close friend. They secretly formed the Free Officers Movement, planning to take power. His military training, even in Britain, increased his dislike for Western influence. By 1969, King Idris was unpopular. Public anger grew. On September 1, 1969, while King Idris was abroad, Captain Gaddafi led about 70 young officers. They quickly took control of airports, radio stations, and government offices. The monarchy collapsed easily in a bloodless coup. At 27, Gaddafi became Libya's new leader. He declared the Libyan Arab Republic, promising freedom, unity, and social justice. Early on, he expelled foreign military bases and nationalized the oil industry. He started large projects for new schools, hospitals, and roads. Many Libyans hoped for a better future. 3. The Green Book idea. Muammar Gaddafi had new ideas about how to govern. In the mid-1970s, he wrote a special book called the Green Book. This book was very important for Libya. It contained his political philosophy, which he called the Third Universal Theory. This theory was meant to be a new way for societies to live, different from both capitalism and communism. Gaddafi said his ideas would solve all of humanity's problems. In the Green Book, Gaddafi spoke about a new government system called the Jamahiriya, meaning state of the masses. He promised direct democracy where every citizen would take part in governing. He wanted local people's congresses where all people could make decisions. There would be no elections, no political parties, and no chosen representatives. He believed that this system would give power directly to the people. In 1977, Libya officially became the Great Socialist People's Libyan Arab Jamahiriya, based on these ideas. However, the reality was different from the promise. Gaddafi kept all the real power for himself. He created revolutionary committees to control the country. These committees were like a secret police. They watched people in every workplace, university, and mosque. Their job was to make sure everyone followed Gaddafi's ideas and to stop anyone who disagreed. These committees could arrest people, put them in special detention centers, and even carry out executions. Gaddafi had promised to give power to the people, but he built a country where people were constantly watched and lived in fear. Despite this control, Gaddafi also started many large projects. One of the most famous was the Great Man-Made River. This was a huge project that cost $25 billion. It brought water from deep under the Sahara Desert to cities on Libya's coast. It was a big sign of Libya's independence and modern power. The river project was designed to supply 70% of Libya's fresh water, helping millions of people and changing dry lands. But these achievements came with great cruelty. Gaddafi's government used extreme violence. A terrible example was the Abu Salim prison massacre in 1996. In June of that year, prisoners protested bad treatment. Security forces then opened fire on them. Over 2 days, more than 1,200 prisoners were killed. Their bodies were secretly buried in hidden graves. This event showed how far Gaddafi's regime would go to stay in power. The leader who spoke about freedom was responsible for one of the worst mass killings in Libya's history. This contrast between progress and extreme brutality marked Gaddafi's rule. 4. A dangerous man. As the 1980s began, Muammar Gaddafi became known as a dangerous supporter of international terrorism. He believed that helping groups fight Western powers was a way to resist colonialism, not commit terror. This idea led him to help many dangerous organizations. One important group Gaddafi supported was the Irish Republican Army, or IRA. In 1972, he openly said he backed the Revolutionaries of Ireland. After America bombed Tripoli in 1986, Gaddafi increased his help. Between 1985 and 1987, Libya sent large amounts of weapons to the IRA. These shipments included many AKM rifles, heavy machine guns, rocket launchers, and 2 tons of plastic explosive called Semtex. Gaddafi also gave the IRA $12 million. This support greatly changed the IRA's power and led to many bombings in Northern Ireland. Gaddafi also provided aid to Palestinian groups and other revolutionary movements across Africa and Europe. Many rebel groups found a safe place and help in Libya. Libyan embassies were used to hide weapons, and diplomatic bags smuggled explosives. Libya became a central point for international terrorism. 2 major attacks showed Gaddafi's dangerous methods. On April 5, 1986, a bomb exploded at the La Belle discotheque in Berlin. This nightclub was popular with American soldiers. 3 people were killed, including 2 American servicemen, and over 200 were injured. U.S. intelligence found clear proof that the Libyan government was involved. President Ronald Reagan responded quickly. On April 15, American warplanes attacked targets in Tripoli and Benghazi in an operation called El Dorado Canyon. Bombs hit Gaddafi's home. He survived, but his adopted daughter was killed. America sent a strong message that terrorism would not be tolerated. The next major event was the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103. On December 21, 1988, the plane exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland. All 259 people on board and 11 on the ground died. Investigations showed that Libyan intelligence agents placed the bomb. Later, a former Libyan minister said that Gaddafi personally ordered this attack. The world reacted strongly to these actions. In 1992, the United Nations placed wide-ranging sanctions on Libya. These sanctions froze Libya's money, stopped air travel, and limited its dealings with other countries. Libya became isolated from the international community. Its economy suffered greatly, losing oil money and access to world markets. Gaddafi, who once wanted to be a leader for change, had made his country a pariah state. 5. A new friend. For many years, international sanctions had hurt Libya, making life hard for its people and damaging the economy. Gaddafi realized his support for terrorism had failed. He decided it was time to change. After the September 11 attacks, the world focused on fighting terrorism. Gaddafi saw a new chance. He began secret talks with officials from the United States and the United Kingdom in European cities. He showed he was ready to cooperate. On December 19, 2003, Gaddafi made a big announcement. He said Libya would stop all its dangerous weapons programs and allow international inspectors to check them. This decision might have been linked to Saddam Hussein's capture just 3 days earlier. Because of this, sanctions on Libya were lifted. Countries started trading again. Western leaders visited Gaddafi. British Prime Minister Tony Blair met him in his desert tent in 2004, making business deals. Libya was no longer isolated. Gaddafi then focused on Africa. He wanted to be a major leader there. He used Libya's oil money to fund projects like roads and schools across the continent. He promoted a United States of Africa with one army and currency, believing it would make Africa strong. In 2009, he became the chairman of the African Union, gaining a platform for his ideas. In 2008, over 200 traditional African rulers named him the King of Kings of Africa in Benghazi. This was strange, as he had removed Libya's monarchy years before, but he enjoyed the grand title. This new period showed Gaddafi's desire for power. His African influence often came from his money. While welcomed abroad, at home, Libyans still had little freedom. Many were unhappy seeing leaders shake hands with their dictator. The contrast between his international image and the lack of rights in Libya was stark. 6. The people say no. The year 2011 saw big changes across the Arab world. Protests started in Tunisia and Egypt, leading to new governments. This period was known as the Arab Spring. Soon, the desire for change reached Libya too. The revolution in Libya began in the city of Benghazi on February 15, 2011. A lawyer named Fafi Turbil was arrested. He had been helping families who lost people in the terrible Abu Salim prison massacre years before. People were very angry about his arrest. They gathered to protest outside the police station. The small group quickly grew into hundreds, then thousands of people. The government reacted with great force. Security forces fired live bullets at the peaceful protesters. Many people were killed, and many others were hurt. But this violence did not stop the people. Instead, it made their anger grow even stronger. The protests spread fast from Benghazi to other cities in the east of Libya. By February 17th, a large area, including much of eastern Libya, was openly rebelling against Gaddafi's rule. Muammar Gaddafi spoke on television on February 22nd. He was very angry and defiant. He blamed the uprising on rats and cockroaches, saying they were controlled by foreign agents and terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. Standing in front of his damaged home in Tripoli, which had been bombed by the United States years earlier, he promised to fight to the last drop of blood. He vowed to hunt down the rebels inch by inch, room by room, home by home, alleyway by alleyway. This harsh speech showed that Gaddafi did not see his people as citizens with problems, but as enemies he needed to destroy. As the uprising grew, Libya quickly fell into a civil war. This was different from the more peaceful changes seen in Tunisia and Egypt. Libya became very divided and violent. In March 2011, Gaddafi's army regrouped. They started to move eastward from Tripoli using tanks, heavy guns, and aircraft. These forces began to take back towns along the Mediterranean coast that the rebels had captured. By the middle of March, Gaddafi's powerful army was approaching Benghazi. Their goal was to crush the rebellion there and end the uprising completely. The rebel fighters were forced to retreat, and it looked like Gaddafi would win. The world watched as Libya plunged deeper into a brutal conflict. 7. The end of the leader. The terrible fighting in Libya made many people suffer. The United Nations looked at this urgent situation. On March 17, 2011, the United Nations made an important decision. They passed a rule called Resolution 1973. This rule meant that other countries could use all needed actions to protect Libyan civilians. NATO, a group of strong military forces, quickly began to help. NATO jets started to attack Gaddafi's army from the air. On March 19th, French warplanes struck Gaddafi's tanks that were moving towards Benghazi. American and British ships also launched missiles at Libyan air defenses. Soon, NATO had full control of the sky over Libya. This action stopped Gaddafi's forces from attacking the city and killing many more people. For many months, the war did not change much. It was a difficult stalemate, meaning neither side could win easily. NATO planes continued to hit Gaddafi's military equipment, but the rebel fighters on the ground were not strong enough to defeat him alone. Gaddafi's army stayed in its positions, and people thought the war would go on for a long time. However, in August 2011, the rebel fighters launched a new big attack. They moved forward quickly and captured important towns. On August 20, rebel forces finally entered Tripoli, the capital city. Gaddafi's soldiers offered little resistance. Soon, the rebels were fully in control of Tripoli. Gaddafi, who had led Libya for 42 years, was no longer in his main palace. He had escaped and gone into hiding. Gaddafi hid in his hometown of Sirte. For about 2 months, he moved secretly from one safe house to another. Meanwhile, NATO planes continued to bomb Sirte, and rebel fighters attacked the city fiercely. They were determined to find the former leader. His time came to an end on October 20, 2011. As a group of cars carrying Gaddafi tried to escape Sirte, NATO aircraft attacked them. After this, Gaddafi tried to hide in a large drain pipe under a road. Rebel fighters found him there. They pulled him out. Many videos taken with mobile phones showed his last moments. He was bleeding, confused, and no longer strong. The whole world saw these images. Gaddafi, the man who once had so much power, was captured and died that same day. 8. What happened next? After Gaddafi's death, Libya faced many problems. His long rule of over 40 years had made the country dependent on him. When he was gone, there was no strong central government to take his place. The nation became weak and divided. Instead of one clear government, there were often two main ones, and many armed groups, called militias, started fighting for control. Gaddafi had destroyed almost all political institutions and independent groups. This meant that after he left, there were no ready systems to help the country move forward in a peaceful way. Because of this lack of order, Libya became a very troubled place. Many cities suffered from a lack of basic services like electricity, and people did not feel safe. This chaos was a direct result of Gaddafi's way of ruling, where he kept all power for himself. Some Libyans, remembering the stability of his time, now feel a sense of longing for the past. They remember a time of more security and money, even though his rule was often harsh and cruel. This feeling shows the deep trouble the country is in. The NATO countries helped remove Gaddafi, but this also brought up difficult questions. Did their help, while stopping immediate harm, lead to bigger problems later by destroying the existing state without a clear plan for what came next? Gaddafi's own story teaches us much about power, revolution, and contradictions. He built big projects like the Great Man-Made River, which still provides water to millions. But he also used much force and did many cruel things, like destroying all ways for people to have a voice. He was a mix of a visionary leader and a brutal dictator. His rule left Libya with deep problems that still affect its future today. The country is still trying to find its path to peace and stability years after his fall. What do you think was the most important lesson Libya learned from Gaddafi's long and complicated rule?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.